Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame in the Marvel Cinematic Universe forever made the Infinity Gauntlet and Thanos' use of it with a single snap famous. But while Thanos is equally famous for crafting it and wielding it in the comics, he isn't the only one who used it. Welcome back, Nerd Squad, it's me, Amanda, and this is the top 10 superheroes who used the Infinity Gauntlet. If you had the Infinity Gauntlet, what would you do with it? Number 10. Ultimate Hulk. One of the most deadly instances of a hero who in this story is actually more of a villain and honestly was a bit of an ambiguous hero to start with, wielding the Infinity Gauntlet, comes from the Ultimate Universe of Earth 1610. Here at one point the ultimate version of the Hulk is set loose by Kang the Conqueror, who infiltrates S.H.I.E.L.D. and releases Bruce Banner, who is being kept prisoner and sedated around the clock to make sure he doesn't transform. Once free, he does transform though into the Hulk, and he manages to get to the Ultimates team, who currently have the Infinity Gauntlet. But in this reality, the Infinity Gauntlet is the Infinity Gauntlets, and 8 gems are needed to fully power the pair of powerful mitts. The Hulk gets both gauntlets temporarily, but fortunately is stopped before he manages to acquire all the gems needed to reach full power. At this point in time, the gauntlets only had 5 of 8 gems collected, so it's a little easier to fight at least. And friends, before I move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, we got lots more videos for you. You can go check out our top 10 superhero playlist for even more content like this. Number 9. Iron Man. Probably one of the most iconic heroes to have used the Infinity Gauntlet is, of course, Iron Man. Iron Man is the one who used it at the end of Avengers Endgame to set things right by defeating Thanos' past self, getting rid of him for once and for all. At least, that's how it seems currently in the MCU. We haven't seen Thanos since that movie, and this actually isn't the only time that Iron Man would use the gauntlet either. He's also done so in the comics as well. Iron Man wielding the Infinity Gauntlet is also extra astonishing in the films when you consider that he is simply a man in a suit. The fact that he was even able to wield the Infinity Gauntlet, even at the cost of his life, is impressive. And the fact that he willingly gave his life to use the gauntlet to save his friends, the world, and half the known life in the universe is one of the most heroic and heartbreaking deeds we've yet to witness in the MCU. Number 8. Adam Warlock. When it comes to stopping Thanos in the comics, Adam Warlock ended up being the man for the job. He managed to find an opportune time to steal the gauntlet away, getting it for himself and thereby saving the day. While Adam himself in the comics is an extreme force of good and was created to be a perfect being, therefore being extremely powerful, even he was not permitted to keep the Infinity Gems all together in one item. The Living Tribunal ended up ensuring that the gauntlet was disassembled and the gems separated once more in order to protect the universe and all of reality. If you're wondering why Adam Warlock didn't just keep the gauntlet and just defy the Living Tribunal and be like, whatever, I'm not gonna do what you say, talk to the gauntlet covered hand, it's because the Living Tribunal is basically like the judge of the cosmos and is exceedingly powerful in the comics. One of the most powerful entities in all of the Marvel multiverse, in fact. Although the Living Tribunal would eventually revoke their rule of the gems always needing to be separated, because other things would happen and then they changed their mind about that. Number 7. Nebula. Nebula actually briefly held the gauntlet herself and wielded it. This was in the comics back before she was really a hero. I mean, I don't really know if we can ever truly classify Nebula as a hero anyways, but in the films I would say she's definitely earned that status, and she's definitely done some heroic deeds in the comics too, at least. So I feel like I can count her for the sake of this list. Nebula at the time was claiming to be Thanos' granddaughter, and when Thanos was wielding the gauntlet but ascended to a non-physical form, Nebula was able to take it from him. She ended up using the gauntlet to undo all Thanos had done, but she didn't get to hold onto it for too long. It would inevitably be taken from her by Adam Warlock. Number 6. Gamora. Gamora didn't so much as wield the Infinity Gauntlet as she wielded the stones that once powered it. In fact, I feel like she wielded them in a cooler capacity, considering she herself used them with her sword, with the Power Stone being, I believe, inlaid on it to enhance her giant sword weapon. This was back when Gamora was going by the name Requiem during the Infinity Warp story, where ultimately Gamora ended up being the antagonist. But normally I would say that we'd consider Gamora as a hero who kills people, as she is still one of the deadliest assassins in the universe, but still a hero nonetheless. Gamora would mostly float the stones around her and occasionally imbue items and herself with them to give her a power boost. Eventually she would use the stones' power to fold the universe in half to create Warp World, turning almost everyone into an amalgam character, where their soul and identity was merged with the soul and identity of another character in the Marvel Universe. Number 5. Professor Hulk. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Hulk was the hero deemed strong enough to utilize the Infinity Gauntlet to restore all those lost by Thanos' snap back in Infinity War. He used the gauntlet in Endgame to bring everyone back and succeeded. This wasn't just Hulk using it though. This was technically a version of Hulk known as Smart Hulk or Professor Hulk. The cinematic version of this variation on the character was basically a version of Bruce Banner who had become permanently stuck in his Hulk form, but while retaining complete mental and emotional control over himself, with his Hulk persona seemingly gone. This meant that he was still a brilliant scientist and had all the memories and knowledge of Bruce while having all the strength and power of the Hulk. Possessing the durability of the Hulk and the mind of Bruce, he was the perfect candidate among the Avengers for being able to wield the gauntlet, as you need to have pure focus on what you want done in order to properly utilize the gauntlet's power, and you also need to be durable enough to use all those stones at once without them basically like ripping you to pieces. Number 4. Spider-Man. Avengers and the Infinity Gauntlet is a retelling of that classic story we know so well from the comics. In this version of the story though, it is Spider-Man, not Adam Warlock, who manages to spirit away the gauntlet from Thanos. Thanos here still wipes out a ton of heroes in this tale, but after Spider-Man manages to get the gauntlet off of him, he is able to use it to bring back any and all of the superheroes who were lost during the conflict, returning this alternate world to normal and ultimately saving the day. Number 3. Mr. Fantastic. Mr. Fantastic attempted to use the Infinity Gauntlet to destroy the Infinity Gems. Unfortunately, this plan was unsuccessful. Turns out that's not really how it works. He actually actively gathered the Infinity Gems, thinking if he had them all, he could use their power combined to basically manipulate reality so they would no longer exist, thereby eliminating their threat entirely. This was a plan that was orchestrated by him himself with the help of the Illuminati, a secret group of some of the most brilliant superheroes who sought to save the world from threats unseen from sort of behind the scenes. However, in general, the Illuminati often just tends to escalate issues and makes many situations actually worse kinda with their meddling. Number 2. Invisible Woman. Before Hulk gets his hands on the Infinity Gauntlets in the Ultimate Universe of Earth 1610, as I said, they're being held and studied by the Ultimates, who are basically trying to examine their power and their origin. To demonstrate what they could be capable of, at one point Susan Storm, aka the Ultimate Universe version of the Invisible Woman, briefly wears one of the gauntlets. She uses the gauntlet to construct an ice cream sundae out of thin air, explaining the potential of the gauntlet's power and how they basically allow the wearer to defy physics just by thinking it possible. She suggests that the gauntlets could allow the user to teleport, transfer matter, transmorgify, and more, and not just using one power at a time either. Susan suggests that this could all be done in a single instant, using every ability at your fingertips. And if all the gems were acquired, the gauntlet's power may actually be limitless. Her presentation of her findings though is interrupted shortly thereafter by the arrival of Hulk, who of course takes the gauntlets for himself. Number 1. Captain America. During the incursions in the main continuity, Captain America was forced to wield the Infinity Gauntlet. He did so in an effort to push back one of the other realities who threatened to destroy the one that he belongs to, the main continuity of Earth 616, by of course colliding right into it. He succeeded in pushing back the other world, but this would not be a permanent solution to the problem, and in using the Infinity Gauntlet in this way, Captain America actually ended up destroying it and many of the gems used to power it, leaving only the Time Gem, or the Time Stone if you prefer, still intact. So this was all a one-time use thing, meaning that the incursions were still very much on their way and basically were inevitable at this point. That's about it. Until next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube.